Hey there, everyone, it's me, and today we're going to be talking about monks. But first, if this is your first time here, hi, welcome to my channel where I publish a bunch of educational videos. So if this is something you're into, hit that subscribe button so you can learn alongside me. Okay, let's get started. Alright, let's get right into it with our first question. What is a monk? The term monk generally refers to a man who has taken religious vows and typically lives a life of solitude or at least separation from society. The word monk comes from the Greek word monachos, which means solitary or alone. Now you may think that this definition is pretty broad, but it actually encompasses most people commonly known as monks, those who live alone in nature. Hermits, or those who live together in communities like the monks you might see living in monasteries. While monks are typically male, the female equivalent is a nun, who often follows the same kinds of vows and lifestyles as their male counterpart. Now that we know what a monk is, let's move on to our next. What does a monk do? There are many different types of monks in the world, all of whom lead slightly different lifestyles and follow different practices. But let's go over a few of the most common things that all monks have in common. One of the most common things that monks do is pray. Prayer is one of the central aspects of monastic life and takes up a significant portion of their day. Different orders will have different prayer schedules, but usually they include a set number of daily prayers. For example, Benedictine monks pray 7 times per day. And as you probably guessed, these prayers aren't exactly quick and casual, they're often lengthy and very formal. Another thing that monks do is work. While prayer may take up a large chunk of their day, monks also dedicate themselves to honest work. This can take many forms, from manual labor like farming, cooking, and cleaning, to intellectual work like writing, teaching, and studying. Most monastic orders have some kind of vocational work that their members participate in. The point of this isn't to make money or advance in any career, but rather to keep busy and avoid idleness. Develop skills for the benefit of the community and as an act of service to God. Meditation is another activity that many monks engage in. While meditation is sometimes confused with prayer, the two activities are not the same. Meditation is more focused on self-reflection and clearing one's mind, whereas prayer is more focused on communicating with a higher power. In either case, both are important aspects of monastic life. In addition to these 3 core activities, monks also take on other tasks to maintain the smooth operation of their monastery. These could be anything from gardening and carpentry to accounting and administration. Every member of the monastery has a role to play, and each person is expected to do their part. Now that we know what monks do, let's move on to our next. Where do monks live? Monks traditionally live in monasteries, which are buildings or complexes that house a community of monks. Monasteries come in all shapes and sizes, from small hermitages to large complexes with hundreds of residents. The layout of a monastery can vary depending on its order and purpose, but typically includes a place for communal prayer, dining, and work, as well as private rooms for each monk. Some monks, however, don't live in monasteries at all, but instead choose to live in solitude. These monks are known as hermits, and they typically live in small dwellings or even caves. Hermits are often found in remote areas such as forests or deserts, and they spend their days in prayer, meditation, and manual labor, regardless of whether they live in a monastery or in solitude. All monks strive to create a peaceful and quiet environment where they can focus on their spiritual development and their relationship with God. Next up, let's move on to, how strong are monks? Now when you hear the word monk, you might think of a frail, skinny person who's weak. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. There are tons of stories of extremely fit and strong monks from all across the world. Take for example, the Shaolin monks. These Chinese Buddhist monks are renowned for their martial arts skills and physical prowess. They practice a form of kung fu that involves a combination of martial arts, acrobatics, and meditation. Shaolin monks train for hours each day, and their workouts are no joke. They involve intense sparring, jumping, flipping, and fighting with a variety of weapons. As a result, Shaolin monks are some of the strongest and most disciplined martial artists in the world. Now, while Shaolin monks are perhaps the most famous for their strength, they're not the only strong monks out there. Monks from other traditions also engage in rigorous physical training as part of their spiritual discipline. For example, monks in the Tibetan tradition practice a form of yoga that involves a lot of strength and flexibility. Similarly, monks in the Zen tradition often practice archery and other physical activities that require a great deal of focus and precision. No matter what form it takes, physical training is an important part of many monastic traditions. It helps monks to develop self-discipline, focus, and endurance. It also helps them to stay healthy and fit, which is important for someone who wants to devote their life to service. Okay, now that we know how strong monks can be, let's move on to our next. What are some rules that monks follow? There are many rules that monks follow in order to live their lives according to their chosen tradition. These rules, known as vows, are meant to help monks focus on their spiritual development and their relationship with God. Some common vows that monks take include vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. The vow of poverty means that monks give up all worldly possessions in order to live a simple life focused on their spiritual development. They typically live communal lives, sharing everything with their fellow monks and avoiding any personal gain. The vow of chastity means that monks abstain from sexual relations. This is seen as a way of helping monks to focus on their spiritual development without the distractions of romantic or sexual relationships. The vow of obedience means that monks agree to follow the rules and guidelines set forth by their monastic order. This helps to create a sense of community and discipline within the monastery. In addition to these three common vows, monks may also take other vows depending on their particular order. For example, some orders require monks to remain silent or to fast for certain periods of time. No matter what vows they take, though, all monks are expected to live according to high standards of behavior and to put their spiritual development first. And lastly, let's move on to our last. What is the religion of monks? Monks are associated with various religions, but the most common type of monk is a Buddhist monk. In fact, Buddhism is the oldest religion that has monks. The tradition of monks and monasticism goes back to the very origins of Buddhism. When Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, first began teaching his path to enlightenment, he did so in the context of a monastic community. The Buddha taught that the life of a wandering beggar was the best way to achieve enlightenment, and his earliest followers were monks and nuns who lived by begging for food and spending their days in meditation and study. As Buddhism spread throughout Asia, the role of monks became even more important. Monasteries became centers of learning and culture, and monks were often responsible for preserving Buddhist texts and teachings. Even today, Buddhist monks play an important role in the transmission and preservation of Buddhist teachings. They are teachers, scholars, and practitioners who help to keep the Buddhist tradition alive. Now, while Buddhism is the most common religion associated with monks, it's not the only one. There are also Christian monks, who typically live in monasteries and take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They devote their lives to prayer, work, and service, and they often play an important role in their communities. There are also Jewish and Muslim monks, though these are less common than Buddhist or Christian monks. Jewish monks are typically members of religious orders who live communal lives and devote themselves to prayer, study, and service. Muslim monks, on the other hand, are often referred to as dervishes, and they're known for their ecstatic forms of worship. So there you have it. Those are some of the most common questions people have about monks. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment down below. I always appreciate hearing what you have to say. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Learning is my full-time job, and I make a new video every single day, so there's always fresh content coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you next time.